Yellowstone, a place of raw, untamed beauty. This ancient landscape holds a secret, a delicate, powerful balance maintained by some of the park's most iconic species. Here, life isn't just about survival. It's about the intricate dance of predator and prey, of grazers and engineers, of hunters and scavengers. Welcome to Yellowstone's story and the animals that define and shape this wild land. At the top of this story is the grey wolf, Yellowstone's most famous predator and a living symbol of wildness. But the wolves weren't always here. For 70 years, the landscape grew silent as the wolves disappeared, victims of human fear and misunderstanding. In their absence, elk, their main prey, began to overpopulate Yellowstone. Without predators, the elk were free to roam, browsing heavily on the young trees that once lined the rivers and valleys. Aspen, willows, and other crucial vegetation vanished, transforming entire ecosystems. Elk are one of Yellowstone's most abundant herbivores and have a major influence on vegetation and the wider habitat structure. Their interaction with predators and plants makes them a critical part of the ecosystem. Elk feed heavily on aspen, willow, and other vegetation, particularly in winter when food is scarce. This can lead to overgrazing if their populations are not controlled by predators. Therefore, elk have a cascading effect on the availability of food and habitat for other species across the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. In 1995, everything changed. Wolves were brought back, and with them, a new chapter began. This is more than just the return of a predator. It's the reawakening of an entire ecosystem. The grey wolf, Canis lupus, holds a special place in the ecological history and conservation story of Yellowstone National Park. Wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone in 1995 after being absent from the region for nearly 70 years, and their return has had profound effects on the park's ecosystem. By the early 1900s, grey wolves were systematically eradicated from Yellowstone and much of the United States due to concerns about livestock predation. Wolves were considered a threat to ranchers and farmers, and by the 1930s, there were no more wolves in Yellowstone. The absence of wolves caused significant ecological changes. Without this key predator, elk populations grew unchecked, which led to overgrazing and degradation of Yellowstone's precious vegetation. The reintroduction of wolves has led to a trophic cascade, a process where the presence of a top predator causes significant changes throughout the food web, improving the health and balance of the entire ecosystem. By controlling elk populations and changing their behavior, wolves have indirectly helped to restore vegetation such as willow, aspen, and cottonwood that had been heavily overgrazed by elk. As of 2023, the estimated number of wolves in Yellowstone is around 100 wolves across 8 to 10 packs. The population fluctuates naturally due to factors like prey availability, disease, and competition between packs. The total number of wolves in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem is estimated to be around 400 to 500 wolves. Wolves don't just hunt elk. Their presence ripples through every layer of life. As wolves pursued their prey, elk began to move differently, no longer lingering in valleys or along stream beds. The landscape itself began to heal. With fewer elk in these sensitive areas, willows and aspens, once heavily grazed, began to return. The resurgence of plant life was particularly poignant along Yellowstone's rivers and streams. This allowed a new player to re-enter the scene: the beaver. The beaver is one of Yellowstone's most influential architects, a creature whose industrious activities profoundly transform the environment. Through their unique behaviors, beavers play a pivotal role in shaping the park's landscape, hydrology, and ecological communities. Imagine a tranquil stream meandering through a forested valley. A family of beavers settles along its banks, drawn by the abundance of willow, aspen, and cottonwood. With remarkable engineering skills, they begin to fell trees using their strong incisors, meticulously cutting them to size. The beavers haul these logs and branches into the water, anchoring them with mud and stones to construct a sturdy dam. As the dam rises, the flow of water slows, and a pond begins to form. This newly created pond floods the surrounding area, transforming what was once a narrow stream into a vibrant wetland ecosystem. It's here that the beaver's true impact unfolds. The return and expansion of beaver populations in Yellowstone demonstrate the profound impact a single species can have on an entire landscape. Their ability to modify the environment benefits countless other organisms, illustrating the intricate connections within the park's ecosystems. But the beaver's influence extends beyond ecology. It reshapes the physical geography of the land. Over time, sediments accumulate behind dams, raising the level of the floodplain. This process creates fertile ground for new plant communities to establish. The alternating patterns of ponds, meadows, and forests foster a range of habitats, each supporting different species and ecological processes. When beavers abandon a pond, the dam slowly breaks down. The drained area becomes a nutrient-rich meadow, progressing through stages of ecological succession that add to the landscape's diversity. The beaver's story in Yellowstone is a testament to nature's resilience and ingenuity. These natural engineers remind us that every species, regardless of size, has the power to shape the world around it. By embracing and protecting the beaver, we not only preserve a remarkable creature, but also the rich, dynamic landscapes they help create. Their story encourages us to look closer at the subtle yet profound ways in which life is interconnected, inspiring a deeper appreciation for the intricate tapestry of our natural world. The simple act of wolves hunting elk set off a chain reaction, a trophic cascade, restoring balance to an ecosystem that had been out of sync for decades. But wolves aren't alone in this delicate story. Another top predator roams these lands, leaving its own mark on the ecosystem: the grizzly bear. Grizzly bears in Yellowstone inhabit a variety of landscapes, including forests, meadows, and river valleys. The greater Yellowstone ecosystem, which includes the park and surrounding areas, supports one of the most significant grizzly populations in the contiguous United States. This region covers nearly 22 million acres. Grizzly bears may seem like solitary wanderers, but they are deeply connected to the park's web of life. These omnivores follow the seasons, eating berries, roots, and fish, but they also rely on the work of other predators. Wolves often leave behind the remains of their kills, carcasses that feed Yellowstone's scavengers, including grizzlies. Grizzly bears were once widespread across the western United States, but their populations dwindled dramatically due to hunting and habitat loss. By 1975, they were listed as threatened under the Endangered Species Act. Conservation efforts have helped their numbers grow in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, with estimates of around 700 bears today. While this is a conservation success story, grizzly bears still face threats from habitat fragmentation, human-wildlife conflicts, and climate change impacts on food sources, like whitebark pine. In spring, grizzlies prey on elk calves, further regulating the elk population. And in the fall, they feast on the seeds of the whitebark pine, whose high-fat content helps them store energy for hibernation. Amid all these interactions, bison, Yellowstone's most iconic herbivore, quietly shape the grasslands. Roaming in herds across the park's valleys, bison are far more than majestic relics of the past. Their grazing helps maintain the health of Yellowstone's meadows, preventing overgrowth and promoting plant diversity. Bison feed on tough grasses, and as they move, their massive bodies trample and till the soil, creating microhabitats for new plant growth. They're the keepers of the grasslands, ensuring that these vital ecosystems continue to thrive. Though they are not frequently preyed upon, young or sick bison are occasionally targeted by wolves, which can help control bison population dynamics. Bison maintain the health of Yellowstone's grasslands and serve as a key herbivore in the ecosystem. Their presence influences plant communities and benefits a wide range of species that depend on Yellowstone's vast and expansive open grassland habitat. But Yellowstone's story isn't just one of animals and plants. Below the surface lies a hidden force that shapes everything: geothermal activity. Yellowstone sits atop one of the world's largest volcanic systems, and its geothermal features, geysers, hot springs, and fumaroles, are as critical to the park as the wildlife itself. Yellowstone's geothermal features are shaped by the heat and energy from an immense, active volcanic system beneath the park. Yellowstone is home to some of the most beautiful hot springs on Earth, including the iconic Grand Prismatic Spring, the largest in the United States. Its vibrant rainbow-like colors, ranging from deep blue at the center to brilliant oranges and yellows around the edges, are caused by heat-loving bacteria that thrive in the varying temperatures of the water. These hot springs are like living canvases, constantly shifting in color and form, representing the delicate balance of life in extreme conditions. Perhaps the most famous geothermal feature of Yellowstone is Old Faithful, a geyser renowned for its predictable and regular eruptions, which can shoot water over 100 feet into the air. Yellowstone boasts hundreds of geysers, more than anywhere else in the world. These geysers are the result of groundwater being superheated by underground magma chambers and then explosively released through narrow vents. Fumaroles, or steam vents, are the hottest of Yellowstone's geothermal features. Unlike hot springs or geysers, fumaroles do not have enough water to produce eruptions. Instead, they release steam with a forceful hiss. Fumaroles, like the famous Roaring Mountain, provide a direct connection to the volcanic forces shaping the park from deep below, offering a tangible sense of the Earth's power and unpredictability. All these geothermal wonders are tied to the presence of the Yellowstone caldera, a massive volcanic system. The caldera, formed by a series of cataclysmic volcanic eruptions over the past 2 million years, is still active today, fueling the geothermal features that make Yellowstone unique. This geological reality reminds visitors of the Earth's incredible history and the fact that even beneath the park's serene landscapes, powerful forces are constantly at work. These boiling waters are more than just beautiful. They influence the ecosystem in surprising ways. The dynamic landscapes created by geothermal activity highlight nature's resilience, adaptability, and constant evolution, inspiring us to appreciate the balance of forces that make life on Earth possible. In the harsh winter months, bison and other wildlife seek out the warmth of geothermal areas. The heat from the Earth's core creates small pockets where snow melts, offering critical grazing areas when food is scarce. Bison can often be found near these geothermal zones, taking advantage of the vegetation that survives where other plants have been buried under deep snow. These massive animals use the warm ground to rest and graze, as the heat melts snow and reveals grass and other vegetation. The geothermal warmth creates a small but crucial grazing zone in a landscape otherwise blanketed by snow. Predators such as wolves often follow prey species like bison and elk into these geothermal regions. The predators take advantage of their prey's weakened state in the winter, but they too may benefit from the warmth to rest or conserve energy. For birds and smaller mammals, geothermal warmth creates unique microclimates that can support life, even in Yellowstone's coldest months. While geothermal areas provide benefits, they also pose risks. The boiling waters and acidic pools are dangerous to wildlife, and there are occasional reports of animals suffering fatal injuries after stepping into scalding hot springs or vents. Despite this, most species have learned to navigate these environments with caution. The geothermal features also support life at a microscopic level. In the hot springs, thermophiles, heat-loving bacteria, thrive, creating colorful microbial mats. These organisms form the base of a unique food web, providing sustenance for insects and birds that depend on these rare ecosystems. Yellowstone's geothermal features are not just wonders of nature, they are lifelines for species that have adapted to one of the planet's most extreme environments. But it's not just the large, charismatic species that tell the story of Yellowstone's health. Indicator species, species whose success reflects the overall condition of the environment, are equally important. Take the Pika, a small, cold-loving mammal that thrives in the alpine rocky slopes of Yellowstone. Sensitive to rising temperatures, Pikas are a bellwether for climate change. As global temperatures rise, their populations are shrinking, an early warning sign of ecosystem stress. Pikas are considered an important species in the alpine ecosystem. Their activities, such as foraging and gathering plants, contribute to the cycling of nutrients in the soil. They are also prey for larger predators, including weasels, hawks, and sometimes foxes. However, Pikas are highly sensitive to temperature changes. They have thick fur, which helps them tolerate cold conditions, but they are vulnerable to overheating. This sensitivity to heat limits their ability to move to lower elevations during warm periods. They rely on the cool microclimates of high-altitude environments, and as the climate warms, their habitat range may shrink. In Yellowstone, there has been concern about how climate change may affect Pika populations, as warming could force them to move to higher, more limited areas, reducing their suitable habitat. The whitebark pine, high in the mountains, is another critical indicator species. These trees are vital to grizzly bears, who feast on their nutrient-rich seeds in preparation for winter hibernation. But the whitebark pine is under threat from diseases like blister rust, invasive species, and the warming climate. Whitebark pine is considered a keystone species in its ecosystem, meaning its presence is critical to the survival of many other organisms. It helps stabilize the fragile soils in high-altitude regions, which reduces erosion and maintains the structure of alpine landscapes. The seeds, also known as pine nuts, produced by whitebark pine cones, are rich in fat and protein, providing a critical food source for numerous wildlife species. Some key species that rely on these seeds include Clark's nutcracker. This bird has a mutualistic relationship with the whitebark pine. The nutcracker plays a vital role in the pine's reproduction by caching seeds in the ground, some of which germinate into new trees. Grizzly bears heavily rely on whitebark pine seeds in the fall to fatten up before hibernation. They often raid squirrel caches for the seeds. Historically, whitebark pines have benefited from periodic wildfires, which reduce competition from faster-growing tree species like subalpine fir. However, decades of fire suppression in many areas have led to dense forests where whitebark pines struggle to thrive. The health of the whitebark pine doesn't just impact bears, it influences the entire high-altitude ecosystem. Its decline is a stark reminder of the vulnerability of these delicate environments. Finally, in the wide-open sagebrush plains, the sage-grouse performs its spectacular courtship dance. This bird is an indicator of the health of Yellowstone's sagebrush ecosystems. The sagebrush provides food and shelter for the grouse, along with many other species. As human development and changes in land use shrink sagebrush habitats, the sage-grouse population is in decline, signaling the need for careful conservation of these vital lands. Sage-grouse are obligate species of sagebrush ecosystems, meaning they rely almost exclusively on sagebrush for food and shelter throughout the year. This shrub-dominated habitat is found in the high desert and plains of the western United States, including parts of Yellowstone National Park. The lekking behavior of sage-grouse is one of the most remarkable natural spectacles in the bird world. During the breeding season, males gather in open areas known as leks to perform elaborate courtship displays to attract females. Males puff up their yellow air sacs and fan their spiked tails, while producing a series of unique popping and booming sounds that resonate across the lek. These displays are highly competitive, and only the most dominant males, often just a few out of many, will successfully mate with most of the females. Leks are traditional, meaning that the same sites are used year after year. The location of these leks is crucial for the species' reproductive success, and loss of lek habitat can significantly impact local populations. While the future of the sage grouse remains uncertain due to the ongoing threats it faces, conservation efforts and habitat protection programs offer hope. In Yellowstone National Park, the sage grouse is an integral part of the park's natural heritage, and efforts are ongoing to monitor and protect its population within the park's boundaries. Whether it's the Pika, the whitebark pine, or the sage grouse, these indicator species serve as the park's early warning system. Their success or struggle reveals the health of the entire Yellowstone ecosystem. But the story of Yellowstone is not just about nature's ability to balance itself. It's about the lessons we've learned along the way. When wolves were eradicated, we disrupted that balance. When they returned, we saw the incredible healing power of nature when it's allowed to flourish. In Yellowstone, every species has a role to play. From the wolf at the top of the food chain to the smallest insect that calls a beaver pond home, each life is interconnected. Keystone species are more than just symbols of the wild. They are the foundation upon which this complex and beautiful ecosystem is built. Powerful geothermal activity, combined with Yellowstone's rich biodiversity, creates a dynamic, ever-evolving ecosystem. In Yellowstone, nothing is isolated. Every animal, plant, and even the landscape itself is interconnected, influenced by the forces beneath and the keystone species above. Yellowstone is a living laboratory, a reminder of what's possible when we protect and respect the natural world. It shows us that the actions of one species can ripple through an entire ecosystem, restoring balance where there once was chaos. It's a powerful lesson for all of us, one that speaks to the resilience of the natural world and the beauty of balance.